Hey DudeFax family, welcome to another episode of the DudeFax podcast. Today we're talking about kindness, Christians exhibiting kindness. Why is it so important? Why is it so important for the gospel and kingdom purposes? How hard is it to be kind when you're driving around in traffic? We're going to talk about all those things today. We're going to have a little bit of fun as well, and we're just glad to be back. We missed you guys last week, so stay tuned and listen to another episode coming up now.
Affirmative.
Welcome to the DudeFax podcast. Four guys united by their love for coffee and corny jokes come together to talk about Christian culture and the ups and downs of ministry. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy. The podcast starts now.
Affirmative.
Well. If the demographics on Spotify for podcasters are accurate, let me say, lady and gentlemen, welcome to the DudeFax podcast. We are back after a week hiatus, and I'm here with Ryan and Josh. My name is Jeff, and Grant is AWOL. He is off somewhere chasing his Goonies film location dreams, and so we're not going to get to hear him today talk about all of his knowledge and tell us multiple times how he lives in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm sorry, that was not very kind. I'm kidding. We love you, Grant, and we miss you. We are talking.
Got to be kidding.
We're talking about kindness today, so we got to be kind.
And that kidding sound bite is not what I thought it would be.
But that worked out well.
Oh, yeah.
But May the 4th be with you is happening this week. So get all the Star Wars fans in your life a submarine sandwich or a gas station pickle and let them know that you love them, because that's kind. And that's what we're all about here today.
If you really love them, get them a hunk.
Yes, big old hunk from a sweaty hunk.
Nothing like warming up at 2 a.m. with a sweaty hunk.
Yes, there we go. We love Hunt Brothers. Hunt Brother, not Hunts, is what I found out this weekend, because I was calling it Hunts. It's Hunt Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Hunt.
No S.
There's only like one Hunt.
Yeah.
Or there are brothers, but there's no S on the end of Hunt.
That's
Okay.
right. It's not
Speaking of
a
kind.
possessive.
That's
It's
right.
not Hunt's brothers as though he owns them.
Yes, but it is Hunt's
Possesses
Pizza.
them. That's right.
That would not be very kind if he owned his brothers.
No, it would not.
Yeah.
Maybe biblical, but not kind.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, we could probably come
Very
up with
Old
something
Testament of them.
there. It is very old.
So we're going to be talking about kindness a little bit later on the show. And, is it crucial that Christians be kind? How do we show kindness in a world that is so often not kind? It's a fruit of the Spirit. How do we cultivate it in our lives? We're going to be getting to that a little bit later. All great things coming up on the show, as well as some other hot goodies that you don't want to miss. But since we already brought up the Pacific Northwest, where Grant is from, and he's not here to remind us. So the three of us have lived, all three of us have lived in Texas and Tennessee and other parts of, the United States and the world. I think we should spend some time, though, talking a little bit about where we live. I know we never talk about the CLV on here. Yeah. First of all, we need to do a CLV 2. If you haven't seen CLV 1, go to YouTube and find it. If you need help finding it, just send us a message and we will help you find it. It's a little dated, but I think it still hits on some levels. But we need to make a CLV 2.
You need to get some of the new hot spots around CLV.
What
Yeah,
are
like
some of
the-
the hot spots?
Give me a 5. Have y'all heard of that? Have y'all seen
People love
that?
that place.
That place is
No.
Absolutely love
my
that
kids,
place.
my wife and daughter went the other day and came home with all kinds of stuff.
Give me a
It's-
5.
Yeah, so it's Bargain Hunt, Essex, stuff like that. It's in that vein. They get these huge boxes of just stuff, and it's usually just like new overstock kind of stuff. And they show up like on Saturday or Sunday, and then on Monday, everything there is $5. Everything, no matter what it is, and then it goes down to like $4 on Tuesday,
Yeah,
$3 on
like
Wednesday,
every
$2.
day it goes down $1.
Yeah. And I think Saturday everything's a quarter. So
Yeah.
It's all the crap that nobody wants.
That's
as a
right.
quarter.
And it is definitely the crap that nobody wants. I've been on like
Yeah.
my $2 and $1 days, and I'm like, this is a bunch of junk.
well, all the
So
stuff
where's
that
this
doesn't-
located?
next
On
to
Madison
where
Street by Kroger.
Bargain Hunt. Yeah.
Oh,
Where
I
Essex
need
and
to go over
Bargain.
there.
But here's what happens is the stuff that doesn't sell is actually what gets shipped over to Bargain Hunt, and then they sell it. So Bargain Hunt gets all their supply from their leftover crap at Give Me a 5.
So does Bargain Hunt sell it for more or less than what it is when it leaves there?
Probably more.
Probably more.
What kind of bargain is that?
Bargain Hunt's gone downhill. They used to be real cool. They would have like where a sticker on it, and if it's been here past so many days, like you get like really good discounts and stuff like that. They don't do
Kind
that
of like
anymore.
Walmart bakery.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, Clarksville is full of hidden treasures, and so we need to make another CLV, most definitely. But I think we need to spend some time talking about what are the best things in Clarksville? What are the worst things in Clarksville? So if I had to ask each of you, what is the best thing about Clarksville? What is the worst thing about Clarksville? What would you say? Not everybody at once.
My battery's running low. Hold on. Not mine, my computer's battery.
That's one of the worst things.
That's the worst thing about Clarksville.
I want to hear what Ryan says, so just hold on.
Okay.
Tummy likey. Tummy want wingy.
Everyone's waiting.
And anticipation for Josh. The best thing about Clarksville is this
Hey, it's got you covered.
right there.
I am totally not prepared for this.
By the way, Silas and I saw Kev downtown by First Baptist this week getting out of his Corvette with the license plate that just read Kennedy, as if we didn't already know it was him. But yeah, just in case, now you know. It's Kev.
Yep.
So did you say he's the best thing about Clarksville?
Yeah,
Yeah. He's
to some people.
I think he's definitely putting us on the map with his 1.4 million TikTok followers.
When you're leaving Nashville on I-24 headed back to Clarksville, he's the first face you see.
He is.
Big sign.
I see him every day when I'm coming home from work.
Well, there's a lot of good things about Clarksville. Let's start on a high note. There's a lot of good things about Clarksville. So I've been gone for 6 years and just moved back about 2 months ago. And so there's been a lot of things change, and there's some cool new places. There's some new coffee places that I really like. The Black Rifle, I like that. There's a place called Two Birds, which is on 10th Street downtown. Really cool people in there. Just a terrible location.
I was going to say, I think I've gotten Two Birds before driving down there.
You have gotten two from driving down there, but this isn't the same thing. Yeah.
Okay. Different birds.
Different birds. Yeah. So there's some cool new coffee places around that weren't here 6 years ago. And then that whole area, kind of the Sango area where the Walmart is, and they've kind of updated a lot of stuff out there. But I see that they're still working on that intersection, which they've been working on for like a decade now. So I'm glad to see that is still the same.
Yeah, and there's a giant mountain of dirt right in front of Ruby Tuesday.
Yeah.
That I don't know if ever is going to leave. I think it's just now a landmark. And I think Ruby Tuesday actually put a sign in the mound of dirt. Just because they're embracing it now.
Is it what happens after you eat off their salad bar?
Yeah, I guess so.
How do you get the
All those
bacteria from
people,
their salad bar?
Yeah, because it's right next to the main entry. Like you walk, everybody walks by that salad bar.
It does. Everybody comes in sneezing on the salad bar.
That's
I'll
right.
tell you what, that I think that one of like Clarksville has some really good like food, but one of the worst things about Clarksville is also its like food scene, because aside from the couple of good restaurants we have, there's mostly just chain restaurants
Mhm.
and multiples of the same chain restaurants. And then also we'll get like a new like local restaurant or something, but Clarksville has this problem where, like, because like when it comes to like trends and things that are like, hip and happening, Clarksville is like 5 to 7 years behind Nashville, who's already 5 years behind everywhere else. So
Yes, and
I
that's
feel like we
generous.
always get something that is just like really dated, and I'm like, okay, this would have been cool, in 2012.
Exactly. I mean, we have a basketball / hockey arena now.
That is
But
that
yeah,
is pretty cool.
That would have been cool in the 90s.
Is it
probably.
like actually doing anything there yet? Like, because I see it there, but I don't see anything going on.
there is hockey already going on there. I do know that because I
Okay.
know some folks that are playing hockey over there.
Do they do like open skates and stuff like that, where people can just like go ice skate?
That I'm not sure. So if anybody from the CLV is listening to this, let us know what's going
Check
on.
it out. Let us know.
We should know.
I did
I mean,
hear
Nicole
that.
Kidman was down there last week.
Yeah, seriously,
It's true.
big stuff happening
Like,
here.
filming a movie. Yeah, she's like hanging on a black horse. What's going on?
Yeah, how does Clarksville get picked for that? I mean, it does have a cool. Franklin Street has a pretty cool vibe, but it's
We look like a random town in Michigan, apparently.
apparently.
But not
I know
cold
it-
enough,
out of date.
apparently, because I saw the pictures where they had to dress it up, and I was like, okay, apparently Michigan is a lot greener than Tennessee.
Well, so Nicole Kidman, I believe, lives in Middle Tennessee because she's married to Keith Urban,
No, that
who
makes sense.
lives down there in Nashville. And
live in
she's
Franklin.
the star of the movie. And apparently she did not want to go to Michigan to film. I may just be totally making this up, but just go with it. So she didn't want to go to Michigan. She wanted to stay near home and film. So they chose towns in Middle Tennessee to film this movie that takes place in Michigan. So I think that's why Clarksville ended up getting tagged.
Or
It's an Amazon Prime movie, isn't it? So maybe Amazon was like, hey, we got a warehouse around here. Let's make a filming spot.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit easier.
or maybe she just knows.
Because it's a 931, baby.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or she knows.
Stop who's using witchcraft on me to get the fire off me!
That's why she left Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Is now with Keith Urban. Oh man! So
I did hear, going back to the hockey thing, which is pretty cool, that there's like a hockey supply store getting ready to go in downtown. So,
yeah,
so they're going to have leagues and things like that. And I guess the Predators, aren't they supposed to like do some practices there or
I
something?
think they're
so.
contractually obligated to do some practice.
Yeah.
they're forced.
I'm sure they're loving it.
You will go to Clarksville.
Oh yeah.
We're like, oh man, well, that'd be neat.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll have an over 40 dads league that we could just go play, relive our his place days playing, hockey on the skating rink floor.
That's right. Except it lasts about 5 minutes and then ends with a chiropractor appointment.
Yeah. That was similar to his place days.
It was, yeah.
As an 11th grader, you'd check a 6th grader in the floor and he'd cry.
That's right. There were so many
And it was
bloody
over.
noses.
So I would have to say, I'm thinking best things in Clarksville. There's a lot of things that I love that gives it sort of its charm, from places to eat and places to go run and things like that. But I think overall, the reason we keep trying to come back here simply is the people. And so as we're talking about kindness today, it's not that there's just all sorts of kind people, but there's people we just love. We really love the community. So the people, I would say, are the best thing. The absolute worst thing about Clarksville by far is the traffic. Worst thing about
Yes.
Clarksville. I lived near New York City for the last 3 years, and I would rather deal with New York City traffic than I would Clarksville, Tennessee traffic. And I am not lying or exaggerating. Horrible. I mean, just absolutely awful.
And it's only
And it only gets worse by like the minute.
Yeah.
You guys know those memes with the guy that has the sign and there's always like different things on it? I think he's like actually in New York City and he's holding it up. I think this is what we need to do as a podcast. We need to, maybe the three of us just go out and take a bunch of pictures of us with just random signs. And then we just need to put like things that we don't want drivers to do and just start putting it on our social media. We might start getting hits. Like things like riding my tail is only going to make me drive slower, or stop going to Wilma Rudolph for everything. The middle lane is a turn lane, not a merge lane.
Oh, yeah, that's a big
Stop looking at your phone when the light is green. Your custom muffler isn't impressive. It sounds like a giant fart. I mean, I think we could have a field day with this idea.
Yeah, I think
Go
so.
out and
I live, my window is looking out. I can see like the traffic on 101st Division Parkway. And my sign would say, nobody thinks your 2014 Mustang is cool.
especially when they take off from the green light, when it turns green, you're next to them, they take off at like 80 miles an hour.
They're so loud.
I always
are you ever sitting back and you're like, whoa, like I just got to stop. That is like the coolest dude I've ever seen in my life.
I like to, if I get next to a car like that, especially if I'm in my minivan, I like to kind of, boom, boom, hit it a little bit, like as it's red, like I want to take them off the line, or the Subaru, either one. But the van's a V6. I mean, it can take off. But I like doing that, and then
I
just
would love if you dusted a Mustang in your van.
But the fun thing is that get them to think you're gonna take off, and then just like turn right or something.
I'm just like, all right, see ya.
No, I think what would be awesome if you just rev it up like big time, like get ready to race, and you both just take off, and then it just stops, and like your catalytic converter just falls off.
Literally just hits the ground.
Oh man, Clarksville traffic. We're going to be talking about kindness. It is hard to be kind when we deal with Clarksville traffic. I don't know about you guys.
I was going down the bypass, and this was a couple of weeks ago, and it was around 5 o'clock or so, and I'm heading down towards Riverside, and it gets so backed up when you get down around Edmondson Ferry, which is where we were living at that point. And there's all these side streets coming onto the bypass, and cars were backed up there. And so I was just letting people out. I'd go up a little bit, let somebody else. And it's a line of cars as far as you can see in front of me, a line of cars as far as you can see behind me. And the car behind me starts blowing their horn and then gets over in the middle turn lane and jets around and gets in front of me. And I'm thinking, okay. Because they were angry that I was being kind. I was trying to be kind, and then I was quickly not kind to that person. My whole demeanor changed about them, but I thought you didn't get very far, just doing that.
Yeah. People do that all the time. They'll get real aggressive and like get in front of you, and then like, okay, now we're both waiting here still.
That's right. There's a little bit you feel a little better when you both get to the next stoplight at the same time, and they're already there. They're about 10 seconds earlier, and you just kind of cruise up next to them.
That's when I give them the stare
eye
down.
contact.
Just like,
Yeah.
You give them the Pedro Pascal look, from that meme that's going around with him and Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's almost every day that I'm amazed, but I'm not amazed at what I see with Clarksville traffic. People make up their own rules, and I guess other parts of the world are kind of like that too. If you go anywhere else, but I don't know. At least as far as the United States goes, Clarksville drivers are up there. So the funny story that I have with this, and this was years ago, because I've been saying this like since I was probably in college, that I thought traffic here, drivers here are the worst. We were down in Florida, I think, driving one time, and I think we were coming back to Clarksville from Florida, but down in Florida, Alabama, that area. And this person just starts weaving all over the interstate. I mean, just driving crazy, like slamming on their brakes. And I mean, just like totally irrational, making crazy decisions. And I look at the license plate and it said Tennessee, Montgomery County. And I'm like,
I think we had a similar thing happen when I was with you in Texas. Like we were driving somewhere and there was somebody that was driving erratically and we looked and it was like, oh, Montgomery County.
And it was Stephanie.
I'm not the only one in that kind of relationship.
Oh, man. Well, speaking of kindness, we always have fun and kind comments left for us on all of our social media outlets and pages. So, Ryan, what good, kind, fun comments do we have this week?
Yeah, we got a couple from our last video, talking about youth ministry. I guess our part 2 on youth ministry. As always, we got to catch up with Tad. Tad says he's never watched a whole episode of Friends. But then again, it hurt me in trivia because I didn't know the nickname of one of the characters. I don't know if that's a reference to something that's happened or if he's just saying.
Now, this was Tad. This was not Pam.
Yeah.
I'd like to know if Pam likes it. Yeah, if it's Tad,
that's what we need to know. We need to know, Pam. Does Pam like Friends? Actually, I think if I recall, I think last episode, Tad said something about that Pam doesn't like either.
Oh. I wonder if he would have won trivia, if he would have won
Bag of Wolves.
Or what?
That's the kind of trivia I want to be a part of. And then we had another comment from Ethan, giving us some actually good stuff on youth ministry experience. So Ethan said, recently coming out of the youth group era of my life, I think it was really impactful. I made most of my friends through there, and I felt like it was a comfortable place to open up about struggles I've been having, and being with a small group of young guys really helped me push through it. I'm so glad I went through it and I think youth ministry it just says ... and there's not more options. I don't know if that's a mess up on YouTube's part or if it's he just cut off at the end.
Or we just
fell asleep.
Yeah.
Youth ministry is fantastic. Diabetic. There's so many options there.
There's definitely a lot.
I'm trying to pull it up on mine.
Makes sense.
Oh, youth ministry is really important if community is there. That's the rest.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
Good.
Okay.
So that's good stuff. Thank you.
Good input, Ethan. Nice.
Thank you.
But next time you should just leave us the ... to really make us go crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to expect it next time. But yeah, that was some good comments. Feel free to drop us some more this week. Even if it's not Ethan or Tad, we still want to hear from you guys, but we want to hear from all our listeners.
Yeah,
so
we want to know
on Spotify. Go to YouTube and drop us a comment, or TikTok. Love to see you on TikTok. We post stuff there. Post some good stuff there. Instagram.
You can actually. I think there's like a question/comment portion on Spotify.
Is there?
Yeah, there is, but honestly, I never check it to see if anybody's written anything. So maybe we should. Well, we might have
a backlog.
We might have this this big mailbox full of mail that people are interested in. Someone's tried to win a T-shirt, and they're very angry with us.
Oh
right now.
man.
Well, So I want to do something fun before we get into our topic today. Grant is Goonie, never say dying, so we will not have his sensual dad joke today. We did talk about having a sensual mom joke and putting Ryan in a wig, but I don't think Ryan is prepared with his wig.
I couldn't find one.
But instead, we're going to do something sort of in the same vein to give you guys the corniness and the sensuality. So instead of corny jokes, we're going to talk corny pickup lines with our new corny music here. Oh, yeah.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
All right. So we're going to talk Christian corny pickup lines. So not only are these pickup lines, these are Christian pickup lines. So if pickup lines weren't already corny enough, there exist Christian versions of pickup lines. So these are like, like Christian Hallmark movies type thing. These are lines that every single Christian young man can use to court a lovely young Christian lady. And I thought the best way to do this was, instead of just reading a bunch that I found off a big list, is I've pulled together 6 lines. And if you like this, we can even pull together more and continue to do this as a segment. But I pulled together 6 lines, and I've distributed 2 lines to each of us. And what we're going to do is we're going to play our mood music, and the 3 of us are going to read our corny Christian pickup lines. And you, the listener, speaking of comments, this is what we need you to do. We need you to listen to all 6 and really digest it. Maybe even go back and rewind it and listen over and over to our soothing voices. Share these pickup lines. But we need you to listen to them and then tell us what is the best pickup line. Not only will you boost our egos by commenting, you will also help out any single Christian young man listening to this podcast, because he'll know that is the top pickup line. That's the one that I need to use when I'm ready to court my next lady. So
Victim. Or lady.
So here's what we'll do.
Well, I think they need to step it up and really do it scientifically. And so what I'd like to see are them trying these out on people and videotaping them doing this. And let's see what the reaction is. It can't be staged. Just go up to random people, male, female, whatever you want. Video it, and let's see what happens.
And we will put it on the podcast. How about that?
Yeah. Yep. All right.
As long as it's clean.
That's right. And I'm throwing the gauntlet down to Joey. Joey, this needs to happen. You're out in LA.
Papa?
I'm talking about Big Papa. You're out in LA. There's a bunch of weird stuff out there anyways. No one will think twice.
Yeah.
Give it a go. I want to see it.
You're already doing wheelies into oncoming traffic. You might as well just do this. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the music, and then we'll start with Ryan. And Ryan, you'll read your first one. And then we'll go to Josh. You'll do your first one. And then I'll do my first one. Then Ryan, you'll read your second, and so on. You guys ready?
Yep.
For this? Are you guys ready? Corny Christian pickup lines. Here we go.
We get in here and get real intimate. Last night I was reading the book of Numbers. I realized I didn't have yours.
The music got kind of loud, so hopefully everybody heard that.
You, the Song of Solomon, the remix.
Hey, baby. Are you a Pharisee? Because you are the fairest one I see.
Ooh.
Just call me Jonah, because I'm going to show you a whale of a time.
I wasn't sure where that one was going.
glad you didn't stop at whale.
Here we go. Hey, girl. I know you've already invited Jesus into your heart, but you got room for me too?
Ooh, smooth. You want to know us something? You float my ark, baby. And there we have it.
Yeah.
All
nice.
the pickup lines. I think those are
I
winners.
just want to say, I think the eyebrows are very important in those.
You've just seen the look on my wife's face. We were doing Christian pickup lines.
I don't know if that's the right sound effect or if it's more like. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys have to vote now. I'm talking to you, the listener. What was the best pickup line? And if you're just listening and you didn't see the eyebrows, you might want to go to YouTube because that makes it even better.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. I think if we get Grant involved with this could be a lot of fun because I found like hundreds of Christian pickup lines. It was hard to even like narrow it down. And I didn't want to use all the good ones right off the bat. The first one. So I had to sort of pick good ones, but not too good, you know?
Well, and if you did your research off some of the lists that I've seen, some of the ones that are labeled Christian aren't really, appropriate. So,
It's true.
You got to be careful, guys, which ones you're using. Just because it's labeled as Christian doesn't mean it is.
Yeah. You could also just go to the book of Song of Solomon and just pick a verse and read it. Yeah. Just kind of close your eyes, point, and, you're talking about flocks of Gilead.
That's right. Especially if you're doing it from the Hawaiian Pidgin. I don't know how to say that version. We should have worked one of those in.
Oh, yeah. Next time.
Next time.
Yes. Well, those are all hilarious. You guys did a great job. And we can do more of this if the listener likes this. But we do want to say, please vote on which one was the best. And for any of you single dudes listening to the show, you're welcome. All right.
We're here for you.
Now, for the simple sake of being able to alienate a clip and show it later in the week, may the 4th be with you. All right. And happy Cinco de Mayo.
Aye.
Yeah.
And now the 6th is Revenge of the 6th, right?
Oh, yeah. Happy Revenge of the 6th. So we've covered them all. We have promos for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday next week. We're good. All right, so we have had fun, and we're going to talk about kindness, but we're going to do that right after we take a short break. So be kind and stick with us for this second part. Thanks for listening.
Hey, DudeFax listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate all of you guys and all the support that we get. Just want to drop a quick reminder, go like, follow, subscribe on all the social medias. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We do plenty of updates on the show, news stuff, a lot of fun, just funny stuff. So maybe if you like something, share it with your friends. And drop us a comment on there too. We'd always love to see you over there. And for right now, back to this week's show.
All right. Welcome back to the DudeFax podcast. For you guys that listened to part 1, you who didn't and you're joining us right now, that's all right. We'll forgive you because we're kind. That's right. We're talking about kindness in this part of this episode. And we think this is going to be a really good discussion here. Kindness is something that's really important. It's something that Scripture refers to as a part of the fruit of the Spirit, something that should be in our lives. But I think at times, we may not really understand what it really means especially biblically, to be kind to people. And it's definitely something that maybe at times, I don't know if you guys feel the same way. It's underrated. I think kindness is something that's underrated, not just for Christians, but just humanity in general, and the power that kindness has to change someone's day, to change someone's life, or potentially even lead to a change in their eternity. So we want to talk about Christians and kindness, the kind of role it plays in our life, what it looks like, and the importance of it, and the kind of change it can evoke in the lives of people around us. So I thought that we could just kind of start with maybe just a quick story, if any of us have one, of just a time that somebody showed you kindness. Maybe it was something big or something small, maybe just a little thing, but it really made a difference in your day or in your overall attitude or whatever for that moment or for a season. You guys have anything like that where someone just showed just some unusual kindness to you?
I have an unusual story. So the kindness was not shown to me, but it was shown by my wife. When we were at West Point, one of our neighbors was parked out in the middle of the street, and we were in the house, and he backed his car into our Subaru. And he knocked on the door and fessed up and told us and said, "Hey, I ran into your car, left a little bit of damage." We called insurance companies, did all that. And I was very thankful that he was honest and came to the door and said, "Hey, I did it." I mean, obviously people may have been watching or they may not have, but he could have easily just said, "Oh, you know what, whatever, I'm driving off," and not fessed up. But he did. He was real nice about it. And Stephanie was very thankful too. But get this. So we get it fixed, get it all back. And one day I come home from work, and on the counter is a card, and with it is a $25 Chili's gift card. And so I look at Steph and I'm like, "Oh, where did this come from?" And she's like, "Oh, I got it for our neighbor." I was like, "What neighbor?" She's like, "Oh, our neighbor that ran into our car." I was like, "Why'd you get him a card and a Chili's gift card?" "Well, I just thought it was very nice that he came to the door and told us that he ran into our car." And I was like, "Wait a second. So he runs into our car and you give him a Chili's gift card? Like, hey, for real?"
What's your address, Jeff? I need to write this down.
But, I'm freaking out. Like, I'm thinking, no, I'm not going to show this guy kindness. I mean, I was nice to him and I was thankful that he was honest, but I'm not going to go buy him a Chili's gift card. But it did make me stop and think, like, isn't that the kind of kindness that God shows us? Like that is different type of kindness. I can say I'm being kind by not getting angry at the guy when he comes to the door, being honest, and reserving my anger at the situation. I can say, "Oh, I'm being kind," but that's just kind of reserving anger, and maybe choosing not to be angry in the moment. But real kindness, I think, is what Stephanie showed, is that she was willing to give this guy a gift, to show him grace and love that, I'll be honest, I was not willing to show. So, yes.
Yeah. Kudos to her. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so he had some Chili's on us for running into our car.
Had some fajitas. I know one time when I was in college and I was living, it was the first house I lived in after moving off campus, living at college, and I was in a house with two other guys, and funds are tight, all that stuff. Well, my truck one day, as I was pulling out of work, just like I heard this like loud knock, and then just like all of a sudden my steering wheel was just like the stiffest thing in the world, and I could barely turn, and I was really freaked out because I thought it was going to be something super expensive, and I had no money trying to get that to work. And then luckily Jonathan Bradley, who we all know, was over at my house seeing one of the other guys, and I was able to like basically limp my truck home and get it into the driveway. And then he was like not even expecting to do this, but then he ended up like basically staying all through the night because like I got off like early and late in the afternoon, and then like through like from there until like midnight or later, he was helping me work on my truck, and we figured out what the problem was. Went and got a part. He helped me replace it because he had a little experience with it. And I just remember that like specifically just really like made my day. And also like I was freaking out so much, and he was able to just like really just be helpful and be there to help me. And I just remember it just completely turning my mood around, because I thought it was gonna, because I was, not only was I super broke, but I had like just like put all my money into like us getting into this house and paying for our deposit and everything. So having him there basically, it changed my whole outlook on what the next whole like month was going to be, because I thought that I was going to be just completely, in the red. And it just, the way it affects your mood, I think is a big thing when somebody does something that, they just do something that's so selfless. And I was so appreciative of him, and he didn't ask for anything in return. It was so nice. And I think I still like bought him dinner or something, but it was, just a true example of like somebody who just is selfless and is there to help other people.
You guys have both hit on something in your stories, and I'll share one in a minute. But when we talk about kindness, I think a lot of times the reason it's underrated is because we have a very limited definition of what it is. That it's just maybe smiling at people, or withholding frustration, like Jeff, something you said, or it's these surfacey kinds of things, but really, especially in the life of the Christian, when it's fueled by the presence of the Holy Spirit, I mean, it becomes this supernatural, spirit-produced. It's an activity that it's being generous. It's like having this orientation of being generous towards other people, even when they don't deserve it or love us back. So you guys both have told stories along those lines of someone being generous with their money or their time, and they weren't talked into it. It wasn't an afterthought. It was, oh, I need to do something for them. There were no conditions placed on it. It was just this thought of, well, I'm going to be generous towards that person. And they've done nothing to deserve it. They just have a need, and I'm going to meet that need. I think it's closely tied with the idea of the love of God, that agape love that is, we're kind to people because we love them the way, when we love them the way God has loved us. We look at them, oh, they need this, I'm going to try to meet that need. And I've got a real, what at the time, I think was a very small kindness, but it has stuck in my mind for almost 20 years. And it was right after seminary. I was serving in my first full-time position at a church in Nashville as youth pastor. And we were building just a little raised part in the youth room for a stage. And I had a guy there that was doing it, and he was kind of a handyman, and he really didn't have a lot of money. His family just kind of lived, paycheck to paycheck, and their income was, very limited. You could tell. And, he had brought some tools and some supplies, and he's working on this stage. And, at some point it was just me and him in there working. And he's like, you want a Mountain Dew? Let me go buy you a Mountain Dew. And I've never turned down a Mountain Dew. I love them. Especially then, like that or Dr. Pepper was all I drank. And I was like, no, man, you don't need to buy me one. Of course I wanted one, but I didn't want him to even spend, $2 on me to go down to the gas station and get a drink. And he's like, no, I want to buy you one. I know you like them. I was like, no. And I put it off again. And then the third time he asked me, and I said the same thing. I remember he sets his drill down, and he gets like right up in my face. And he said, Josh, don't steal my blessing. I want to buy you a Mountain Dew. I was like, all right, you can buy me a Mountain Dew. And I have gone back to that story over and over in my life. At any time somebody wants to buy something for me, give us something or whatever, if it's a believer, I more than likely they're seeing a need in my life and they want to meet it. They want to be kind. God's leading them to be kind. And I've learned to say yes to those things because they're allowing God to work through them, whether it's a Mountain Dew or we got a guy right now that's making us a dining room table with his bare hands. We've never owned anything like that. And it's beautiful. He's doing some custom carving in it for us. And so whether it's small or big, it's a blessing when people are blessed when they're able to be kind to someone else. So my MO now, so anybody that's listening, you know what I'm going to do. If you offer to do something for me, I'm going to say no once. All right. If you offer again, you're stuck. So if you really don't mean it, you better not offer a second time because I'm going to hold you to it. But it's that generosity, I think, that really drives kindness in the Christian.
It's kind of funny that you said, even if you don't mean it, because I think that's sort of our MO a lot of times is, even as Christians, is we think, yeah, I'm supposed to be kind, or I'm supposed to be loving, or I'm supposed to, show, thoughts or emotion or whatever towards people that the world doesn't. But it's more of, let me try to act this way to appear that I'm kind or loving towards you. But, deep inside, we're like, I really don't want to engage. I really don't want to stay here and help this guy fix his car. I really don't want to buy this guy a Mountain Dew. Or I really don't want to do that. We're thinking in our minds, I really hope that I don't have to end up doing what I'm supposed to do as a Christian. And I think we're missing out if that's our approach to it, because that was not Jesus's approach. And that's not our call in Scripture. And that's not the fruit of the Spirit of kindness. That's simply just trying to put on an act. And really, that's going to fall short of even the world's natural inclination to be kind, which is kinder than that. So I think it's important. Kindness can go a long way. To sort of share another just quick story. A situation in which I was forced to be kind, but then ended up seeing fruit from it. I remember while I was at West Point, another story there. It was during COVID, and it was when people were being quarantined and all that stuff. And we had a cadet that was down the street from where I lived, less than a mile, who was in quarantine all by herself, was going through some struggles. And it was like 11 o'clock at night. And I get a phone call from another officer saying, hey, I'm trying to get somebody just to go down and stand outside this girl's door and just talk to her and calm her down. And the last thing I wanted to do at 11 o'clock at night was walk down the street and go talk to some, what I thought, whiny cadet in the middle of the night. And long story short, I went down there mainly out of obligation. It's my job. I'm supposed to, but I'm thinking I'm tired. I don't want to go in the middle of the night, but I went down there and tried to be as kind as I could be. But then I just started to listen to her needs. I ended up getting her some food, meeting a couple of other needs. And long story short, this was a cadet that didn't know the Lord. And through a series of her interacting not only with me, but with other believers throughout the next couple of months, she ended up coming to know the Lord. Mm-hmm. And ended up just being on fire for Jesus. And I couldn't help but almost feel conviction later on, thinking, if I just would have been a total jerk that night and said, no, I am not going to go down there at all. I'm sure she would have met other strong believers. God had a plan for her life, but I'm missing out on that opportunity to pour Jesus into her. And look how it's now changed her for eternity. People being kind to her, people showing the love of Jesus. And so our kindness isn't something that we should look at as, just something to be nice in the moment, but it has eternal implications for people's lives.
Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like you hit on something really important there that is kind of I would say like a defining factor of like true meaningful kindness, especially for us as Christians, is being kind and doing something for someone even when it's not convenient for yourself. And kind of coming from a place of humbleness and being like, I know that I may not want to do this, or it's putting, you may feel like it's putting you out or something like that, but saying like, it doesn't matter. I have the ability to meet this person's need, and God can use me through that. And kind of putting yourself aside and being truly selfless is the defining quality, I feel like, that really makes that type of kindness able to be potentially life-changing for someone.
That's my pizza alarm. So my son is going to be kind and go get our pizza out of the oven right now.
It's very important. He's being generous with his energy.
That's right. He's
there's
taking a break from Minecraft to go down there and do that.
Man, that is a sacrifice.
Yes.
There's a common thread here because one of the questions I wanted us to discuss a little bit is what is it that makes, if I can say Christian kindness, as though it might be different than the kind of kindness that's just maybe a general thing in the world, but the kindness that would come from people who are following Jesus. I want to say it that way. What makes that kind of kindness unusual than what might just generally be out there in the world? Any thoughts on that?
I think it's the source at the end of the day, which I know we all know that, but God's, in the book of Romans, Paul writes that God's kindness led us to repentance. So kindness, again, leads us to live different and not for ourselves, and it changes eternity. But I think natural kindness we see a lot of in the world, and it can lead to good things. But I think a lot of times natural kindness seems like something often done, if not, I don't want to use the word selfishly, but I think done for self. It's, hey, I want to be kind because I want the world to be a better place, or I want to be kind because I want to live in peace, or I want to be kind, to right a wrong, or because I feel like something needs to be done, or because I see somebody living in plight or in bad conditions, or because of a personal conviction. All that's great, and all that can be impactful. So I don't want to, throw any of that out the window necessarily, but it's still not the same kind of impact that God's, in the book of Samuel, David, when David's talking with Jonathan, scripture says, but show me unfailing kindness, like the Lord's kindness, as long as I live. That kind of kindness, the impact that it makes is permanent life change. And so while the worldly kindness can be nice at times, and it's sweet to see people get along and do good things and give and all that, God's unfailing kindness is life-changing, truly life-changing.
Yeah, and I think there's something that a lot of times we miss, this understanding that, okay, so that verse, that Romans verse, that his kindness leads us, it's meant to lead us to repentance. It draws us back to him, right? He was kind in that he has already forgiven us while we were sinners, right? So undeserved kindness. And so we quickly will go back to him. Once we learn that his forgiveness and his grace is available, when I mess up, I know I can go to him and he's going to embrace me and accept me. So that kindness through his spirit in us is the same kindness that we can show to others. So it's God kindness. You said that, but it's flowing through us to other people. So he's going to draw people to himself through us, which is just amazing. And and I know we talked about this on another podcast when we got into the fruit of the Spirit some, that it's not that, well, I've got joy, but I don't have kindness, or I have patience, or I don't have this other thing. Like, you have all of them, love, joy. I have to think of the song, the love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, all 9 of them, like
Gentleness and self-control.
control.
Yeah.
There you go. So all 9 of those are to be present and developing and practiced in our lives. And the closer we draw into a relationship with Jesus, the more natural those things flow out of us. So it's an amazing truth that just being kind to people can change their lives. So the next question, and not just today, but for eternity, and you gave us an example. Oh, and I wanted to read a story that I saw in an article. It's not terribly long. But let me read a couple of these paragraphs to you. It says, in her memoir about the journey from being a committed lesbian to a committed Christian, Rosaria Butterfield says that as a non-Christian, her impression of evangelical Christians was that they were poor thinkers, judgmental, scornful, and afraid of diversity. After publishing a critique of an evangelical Christian group in her local newspaper, she received an enormous volume of polarized responses. Placing an empty box in each corner of her desk, she sorted hate mail into one and fan mail into the other. Then she received a 2-page response from a local pastor. And quote, it was a kind and inquiring letter, she says. It had a warmth and civility to it, in addition to its probing questions. She couldn't figure out which box to put the letter in, so it sat on her desk for 7 days. It was the kindest letter of opposition that I had ever received. Its tone demonstrated that the writer wasn't against her. Eventually, she contacted the pastor and became friends with him and his wife. They talked with me in a way that didn't make me feel erased. Their friendship was an important part of her journey to faith. And so when we're thinking like everyday life, it's real easy for us to be kind to some people and not kind to others, especially someone that might be trying to antagonize or point fingers at Christians, Jesus followers. But we see in this story someone who responds with kindness. Like, God used that to bring someone that we would say, oh, they're far off. They're committed to being anti-Christian. God used that to bring this person into faith. So it's extremely powerful. So the next question then is, what are just some simple things that we can do maybe in our daily life? Because we may not always be able to write a letter to someone who has critiqued Christianity in the newspaper. But what are things that just in our daily life that we can do to show kindness to people in a way that might, down the road, who knows, lead them to Jesus?
I think that, and that story, in and of itself, I think hits on something that I personally feel is very important in, being kind to others, is to, even when you are on opposing sides of something and you disagree, you can still approach someone and be willing to hear them and be willing to, meet them where they're at instead of demanding they be something else. I think that's a very important step in just, acting just kind of in a general sense, just kind to other people, is not expecting people to be something specific. And, when you meet someone, when something is adverse to you, you approach it with a attitude of, I'm here to help you and to listen to you, and not to make you feel like you're, there's something wrong with you, or there's, something that is making you different from me. And I think that, that goes into being kind in a way that your nature in the way you interact with people exudes that. And in our daily life, I think there's times all the time, throughout every day that you can practice that in your interactions with just even strangers on the street. You know, it's and just the smallest thing like that can be life-changing to someone.
Yeah. And I think we as Christians, are really good at saying, this is how God wants us to live. So this is what we should do. This is what we shouldn't do. And I think most of us, I think the three of us would agree that there's a lot of bad demonstrations of Christians saying this is what you shouldn't do, and trying to say it in a way that is very hateful and not unproductive as far as trying to show Christ-like love and build the kingdom. But it doesn't mean that we should be silent. And so I do like this story in that, this was a letter of kindness. I've been reading a book by Christian author Mark Batterson. It's called If, and he talks about the fact that God doesn't simply just call us not to sin, but to replace that action with something holy and of him. And I was thinking about this topic, and I'm going back to driving. We talked about driving in the first segment, and that to me is like one of the areas in which I have the hardest time showing kindness. I can work really hard not to get angry when I'm driving and to not yell at the other cars or keep my mouth shut when people are cutting me off or dudes are trying to show their mufflers off or whatever. I could just keep my mouth shut and just smile and keep going. But I don't believe that's what we're called to do as Christians, just to sort of be silent and just repress the anger or hide it or anything like that. It's not the old thumper rule. If I don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. But it's more about what am I going to do to demonstrate Christ-like love? In driving, maybe it is what you were doing, Josh, as you shared earlier about being nice and letting people in, being kind. And I think that applies to other areas, as well. And so when you talk about, what are the things that we can do to show that Christ-like, I don't think it's being quiet and still, being the opposite of the offensive Christian, for lack of a better term, the one who's out on the street corner saying, you're going to hell because of this, this, and this. It's not being the opposite of that and just being quiet. But it is, what can I do to show this person love? And so I think your story, is a great demonstration of that, Josh. But I think in daily life, it's taking time for people. It's actually caring for people. It goes beyond just trying to act like you care or just trying to say the right thing. It's cultivating it. I'm not a natural, like, touchy-feely person. I like hugs. I like high fives. I like shaking hands. I like all those things, but I'm just not one that typically goes out and shows that, because that's just sort of not in my nature. But it's something that I've tried to cultivate because I think it helps show that kindness. And I think this is, that there's a lot of different things that we have to do when we talk about that fruit of the Spirit to cultivate that in our lives. And it requires us sort of thinking, how can I show kindness? Being mindful of it, praying for it every day. God, help me to show kindness. Help me to be aware of ways in which I can be kind. And sometimes it depends on the situation. But a lot of times it just really requires being there for people. Them knowing that you care about them, that you love them, and that you're willing to do things for them. I think those are the things that change lives and hearts.
There's again a theme that kind of develops, and it's just being aware of others, but it's them above me. You see that in Philippians, the discussion of humility and placing the needs of others above your own. But I think one of the things that we really struggle with, and I do, in just conversation with people, is showing more interest in them than in them being interested in what I have to say. So Ryan, you mentioned like listening. Listening is huge because we just don't listen anymore. Like we fill all our time with stuff. And I'm trying to be more intentional about asking questions and not just saying things. And, that's huge. When people do that to us, we all know, like when someone shows interest in our life, they're asking about our family or our work and they're generally interested. They show that they really do care and they want to listen. And it's not just so that they can then jump in and say, well, I'm doing,
Yeah.
Brian Regan has a great bit about the me monster. Are you familiar with this bit? He talks about being at a party and, you always have the guy that he's listening to people say something and he's just waiting. And then somebody says they're doing something. He's like, oh, yeah, well, I did. And me. You need to look that up. It's really funny. But that's how most humanity lives. And the simple art of listening. And man, there was a great tool I was given in college. Bridget, my last 2 or 3 semesters, I just had electives to take. And so I was taking the most random stuff. And she had taken a class called interpersonal communication.
Yeah.
And she's like, you really need to take this. I don't know what she was saying there, but one of the things that they talked about, one was like I statements and active listening, really looking like, oh yeah, okay. But giving a few seconds after someone finishes speaking before you start, making sure they're done and not just jumping in. If you think about doing that, you'll realize how little we do it. But all of that together is just a simple fact of letting people know they have value, opening the door for them, giving this person that needs food, going down to talk to somebody, whatever it is, you're showing value to them, which is really important. So maybe one final question here before we begin to maybe wrap it up is maybe something a little fun to talk about. What are some of the simple ways that we can be kind? We can kind of get on our soapboxes here for a second. What are simple ways that we can show kindness that people usually don't show kindness? Clarksville traffic.
No,
when we were, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm trying to be kind and let you go.
I'm going to count to 5. That count to 5 doesn't work well on a podcast. You just got to jump in there.
You got the awkward silence.
Well, you had shared something on when we were pulling together a topic list. I think we're talking about kindness on there, and you had mentioned something about shopping carts. As being a big pet peeve of yours.
And see, I don't know if it's so much the type of godly kindness, or it's more of that just human kindness of conviction or righting a wrong. But it does drive me nuts when people leave their shopping carts out in the middle of like their parking space or out in the middle of the grass. And then I've seen all the posts online about, the people that are like, don't judge people who don't put the shopping cart back at the corral, because there's the young mother who has 3 kids and they're all crying and she has to put them in the car and the groceries, and she doesn't want to walk away from her car and go to the corral, which is 10 feet away, because, who knows what could happen. And I'm like, okay, maybe that happens every once in a while, but just think ahead. Like, come on. If you are that mom, park next to the shopping corral. Or if it's only 10 feet away, like you've got visibility. I don't know, but I think that is, that is a simple act of kindness that I think drives me nuts. But, I was going to say, just to share one quick more story, and he's in the room, so he's going to hear all this, but my son, Silas, he's very good at showing kindness. He gets it from his mom, but no, I think he shows godly kindness. And I remember one morning, again, when we were living at West Point, we lived about a quarter mile from a Starbucks. And I remember waking up and I wanted a Starbucks. And I said something about going to get one on my way to work, but then I ended up getting busy and I couldn't, and I had to take a shower, get dressed, and just go. And I remember saying like, oh man, like I really wanted to go to Starbucks. And I'm not going to have time now. And so I got a shower, got ready, and I was getting ready to go. And I didn't know this, but when I hopped in the shower, Silas took off and went down to Starbucks on his own, bought me a drink. And I was about to pull out of the driveway, and here he comes running with a Starbucks drink and just hands it to me. Wow. And I was just blown away by his kindness, because I'm like, I don't know if I would have done that for my dad when I was that age. I'm like, bad luck. Sorry, Dad.
But they didn't have Starbucks then, so you were good.
That's true. And he doesn't like coffee. So
you're off the hook.
But, it's those simple things sometimes that I think that's so easy. And it definitely spoke to me. The fact that I still remember that story, but also made me think about the ways that I can, as you said, Josh, in the Philippians verse says, put others' interest above my own and think about others before I think of myself.
I think one that comes to mind for me is when you're in a retail store and you're shopping, you have a cart full of stuff, and you look at something, you're like, hey, I decided I don't want that. Go put it back where you got it from, and don't have the mindset of, oh, well, somebody gets paid to put this where it goes, because that, one, is selfish, and two, like, they already have enough work. Like, don't add to it. Be kind to them by being considerate and putting that back.
Unless you're Morgan Hunt.
Yeah, that's right. So my wife actually it's so random there. My wife just got a job at Publix down the road here, and she does stocking at night and in the evening, and she has now complained about that, about people, and that's always kind of been a pet peeve, but now she's the one that's like, why I have to go 10 aisles over now to put this back or whatever. I felt guilty because I've been one of those people that just leaves it.
I think that's something that most of us have been guilty of.
Yeah. I need to show more kindness there.
Unless you're at Barnes and Noble and you take like a Joel Osteen book and you put it in the fantasy intentionally. Yeah. That's kind of fun.
That's okay. That's right. I think that there's where it belongs. I think we're going to get some comments from pregnant women and Joel Osteen fans.
That's right.
I just think there's just some common courtesy things that are not occurring much anymore, and I don't know what the reason is behind that, but things like opening doors for people or holding it for them, or please, thank you, just those normal kinds of things. And I feel weird now, like ma'am and sir to people, because you never know. Like, unfortunately, that's now something that you got to be careful about. But letting people walk in front of you, or picking something up that somebody dropped, or these little things, I think they seem insignificant, but if we're just focused on, can I just help somebody? Just for culture in general, we've lost some of that. I think this is the old man in me coming out, because back in my day, I was raised to do all those things.
I think that whether something's regardless of how something's taken, the intent that it's done with, I think, is sometimes more important. So, like, even if something is a little, somebody finds it, personally, not offensive, but like, finds it, a little inconsiderate or something like that. If it was done in earnest and with good intentions, consider that when somebody is, interacting with you. Don't just feel like they're, if somebody opens a door, if a woman's like, I can open the door for myself. It's like, well, I know you can, but I'm just trying to be polite and open the door for you. Like, just be cognizant of what your expectations are.
Your dog is not being kind.
My dog is not being kind. And I was going to say, Ryan, just tell that lady, don't Shut up. Just
That was not
don't
very
tell her
kind to
shut
your
up.
dog.
I was going to say, just tell that lady, don't steal my
Isolate
blessing.
that soundbite.
Start telling people that. Don't steal my blessing.
Yeah, don't steal my blessing. Might not work in that context.
Yeah, probably.
No, I'm going to isolate the soundbite where Josh says, "Just tell that lady, shut up."
It's going to be a good one.
Please do. Well, we need to go ahead and land the plane here. So kindness, very powerful, very important, especially for us as Jesus people, to be kind to others as he's been kind to us, not just because it might make them feel good for a moment or change their attitude for the day, but it really can lead to eternal life change. And we've read a few stories or Jeff shared one personally about that. It'll be hard. It's going to cost you something. It does require sacrifice, and it requires focus and looking at people a little different. It's requiring me right now to not go and punch my dog in the face. I'm just kidding. I would never do that. I love my dog. He just barks a lot.
No.
That's right.
We're taking everybody off today on the
That's right. That's right. All right, you guys got any final closing thoughts on that?
I love both you guys.
I love you.
I love you guys too.
Thank
Jeff,
you,
when we go to get peach cobbler, we'll hug
all
in
right.
our cardigans there.
That's right.
We'll do a 3-person hug in the peach cobbler factory.
Ooh.
They have a little
bro
word
hug.
After or before we eat our peach cobbler?
While.
Ooh.
We can feed each other and hug. One arm has a spoon and one arm is around the person.
We'll just hug and mash the peach cobbler, with our chests.
I don't want to get my shirt dirty though.
Tummy
so it's my bare
likey.
chest.
Tummy want wingy.
That was not the clip I clicked. But it was appropriate. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us on this episode of the DudeFax. We had a good time. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you were encouraged.
Your dog enjoyed it.
Oh, be kind, Josh. All right. Y'all have a great rest of your day. I hope you show some kindness to people, and we'll see you next time. Yeah. Don't steal my blessing, baby.
Hey, got you covered.
That's going to
Affirmative.